My hope was to be involved in this program a little differently than I have been these past 4 years. But I think given the circumstances especially, what I've been able to do, I've been able to be as much a part of the team, as my abilities allow. My goal is to be the best. I don't know if you want to call me a practice player, a role player, because I guess I have a role. I want to be the best person who has ever filled the role that I'm filling as an encourager, a motivator, an inspirer. I want to be the best person to ever fill that role in the history of college basketball. I really believe Michigan is where I'm supposed to be. I've always had a dream of playing basketball at Michigan. My mom went here. Both my grandpas went here. My dad did research here before going to medical school. So my time at Michigan has been a dream come true. And my time at the basketball program has been a dream come true. But finding the girl of my dreams, finding my wife, my soon-to-be wife at Michigan, is at the top of the list.
So my story of how we met is probably a little different than how his story of how we met goes.
We met on October 26, 2014 in political science, Poli Sci 101.
I walked in 10 minutes late to the class, and I saw this guy kind of flagging me down and pointing at an open seat next to him.
Didn't pay much attention to the lecture that day. Probably should have.
We really hit it off, and
2.5 years later, I asked her to marry me. I really believe Michigan is where I'm supposed to be. I don't think it's an accident that I committed to a place like Michigan 9 days before my life changed.
I knew who he was when he asked me to sit by him in class. His story was pretty public, and he had just committed to Michigan.
We all know Austin's story, the survivor of 2 fatal plane crashes. After losing a brother, a sister, and his mother in a 2003 plane crash, then losing his stepmother and father. In June of 2011, Austin suffered broken ribs and brain trauma that caused a medically induced coma for weeks.
My mom was like, we just need to pray for him and his family. And it's crazy to think that at this point, I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm not yet committed to Michigan. Austin is a stranger who is just hanging to life by a thread. And it's just crazy to think that I was praying for my future husband.
Austin, after 3 years of recovery, is here in Ann Arbor as a freshman for this team, and certainly...
We were not sure whether he would be able to come all the way back. We were very hopeful that he could. And then in the first scrimmages, I could see it was going to be a longer road back than we thought. But this was a no-brainer. You make a promise to someone, and you're going to give him a scholarship. You're going to honor that.
I've been a member of the team, obviously, but I'm ineligible to play. I don't take my role lightly, even though it may not seem that significant. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet, and no one's going to see Austin Hatch. You don't get a stat for encouraging guys. You don't get a stat for motivating guys to work harder. It's not going to show up on the stat sheet. No one knows what I'm doing, and that doesn't really matter. Maybe I'm not doing anything. Maybe it's just my teammates say that just to make me feel good. I don't know.
There's no question what he's added to this team. I think that this is all part of why we really coach, to be thrown into these situations where we can make not an impact in a game, an impact for life.
Coach Beeline asked me if I wanted to warm up on senior night, and I was like I almost didn't think. I was like, what do you mean?
Walking Austin out on senior night was very special. And I'm, of course, very honored that he asked me to walk with him along with his grandparents, but it should have been his parents.
This was one that I really wanted Austin to be a part of. So he said, let's petition the Big Ten, see if we can put him in a uniform, have him warm up, do everything short of playing in the game. So Austin could experience what he really deserved, but life threw different challenges at him, and he just adapted.
Michigan is a place that prides itself on family, and Austin had a family within the program. He always will. We come to a place like Michigan, and he thought he was coming here, for basketball, and I thought I was coming here for volleyball. And at the end of the day, you realize that that's just a small part of it, and it's the relationships that you take forward with you.
This whole 4 years has been as unique and gratifying as you could ever imagine. Because if we go back to those days in the hospital, where I at that time, I didn't even know that he would ever be able to get a Michigan degree, let alone have a senior night.
Obviously, the past few chapters of my life have been very public, and it's a story. It gets people's attention, and that's great. And hopefully, I've been able to inspire other people, by how I've responded to the adversity that I've faced. But this is only the beginning of my story.